My name is Olivia Harper, and from the outside, my life probably looked effortless. Sitting at my corner desk in the sunlight streaming through my penthouse window, the silk of my blouse brushing against my wrist, I scrolled through emails while the city hummed below. To anyone who didn't know me, I was calm, composed, successful, someone who had it all figured out. But no one knew. No one knew the sacrifices I had made, the quiet battles I had fought while smiling through family dinners and holiday calls. My phone buzzed, a familiar vibration that made my chest tighten. It was Mom. "Are you coming over for brunch tomorrow? Your father says it's been too long since we had the whole family together." I stared at the message, a mix of irony and lingering hurt washing over me. The same family that once mocked me, called me too cheap, overly cautious, and penny-pinching, were now inviting me in as if nothing had ever happened. The apartment smelled faintly of vanilla coffee, my favorite mug sitting untouched on the desk. I rubbed my temples, remembering the years they didn't know I had been quietly paying off the mortgage, the late nights of transferring money so their home was never at risk, all while they laughed at my thrift. I knew that tomorrow, the past and present would collide, and I'd have to decide, reveal the truth, or keep it buried a little longer. I was 22 then, freshly out of college, full of ambition and trembling confidence. The first time I'd suggested helping with the mortgage, my father had laughed so loudly it echoed through the kitchen. "Olivia, that's ridiculous. You barely have your own life figured out. Why would you throw money at this house?" Mom had glanced at me, a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You're always so frugal. Maybe too frugal," she said, letting the words land like tiny, invisible knives. I felt my throat tighten, my hands curling into fists. Every fiber of me screamed to defend myself, but I'd learned young that arguing with them only made me appear weaker. The sting wasn't just in the words, it was in the dismissal, the subtle insinuation that my efforts were meaningless, that I was insignificant. Later that night, I sat alone in my cramped apartment, the hum of the city through the window keeping me company. I took out a small velvet pouch my grandmother had pressed into my hand a year ago. Inside, a single silver coin glimmered faintly. "Strength isn't in what they give you," she had whispered. "It's in what you do for yourself and those who matter." I held it like a talisman, the cool metal grounding me. That night, I made a quiet decision. If my family couldn't see my worth, if they couldn't trust me to contribute, then I would prove it, not for their approval, but for myself. I began mapping out a plan, side jobs, investments, and ways to grow my income discreetly. Every pay stub, every savings account entry, every calculated move was a step toward independence. And somewhere deep down, I vowed I would protect them from hardship, even if they never knew it. The next morning, I smiled at them over breakfast, the same calm, polite smile I always wore, hiding the fire that had ignited within me. I was ready to fight quietly, to turn their doubts into my secret strength. I remember the first night I stayed at my small studio apartment, hunched over a laptop with stacks of bills and invoices spilling onto the floor. The hum of the city was louder at night, or maybe it was just that I noticed it more when no one was watching. Every move I made was deliberate. Investments, side gigs, freelance projects, all calculated to build a future they couldn't see. That's when I met Margaret Lyons, a seasoned financial consultant with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She believed in me before anyone else did. "Olivia, you have instinct," she said, sliding a contract across her polished desk. "Now learn discipline, patience, and resilience." That's the trifecta. Her mentorship became my blueprint. Long nights blurred into early mornings, and I faced countless setbacks. A client who vanished after promising a deal, a spreadsheet error that cost hours of work, self-doubt that whispered I wasn't enough. All of it tested me. And yet, with every small victory, the fire inside grew brighter. The first big client came 2 years in. A local business needing a financial restructure. I poured every ounce of skill I had learned under Margaret's guidance into that project. When they called to confirm the success and the resulting profit, I cried quietly in my apartment, the single silver coin from my grandmother clutched in my hand. I hadn't just made money. I had created stability for myself and for the family who never thought I could. Over the next few years, my success snowballed, but I stayed invisible. I posted modest updates on social media, careful not to draw attention, letting them believe I was just scraping by, frugal and struggling. In truth, I was quietly paying their mortgage every month, making sure the house they deemed ours never fell into danger. Each payment felt like a secret triumph, a silent smile against their dismissive words. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and all without recognition. I had built a network of supporters, mentors, and allies, each step teaching me the art of balancing power and humility. Every late night, every risk, every quiet celebration, it all compounded into a life I had carefully sculpted behind closed doors. And the irony? They still saw me as the frugal one. Too careful. Too cheap. Little did they know, that same cheap girl had become the backbone keeping their home secure, their life uninterrupted, and their mistakes invisible. By the time the 5th year rolled around, I had amassed enough not only to secure my own future, but to protect theirs, if I chose to. And I did, silently, without fanfare, savoring the quiet satisfaction of knowing that my power was real, and theirs was about to be confronted. The morning they arrived, I felt an odd mixture of anticipation and calm. Mom's car pulled up first, a sleek sedan that had always seemed just a bit too much for her taste, and then Dad followed, grumbling about traffic, his tie slightly crooked. My younger sister, Madeline, waved enthusiastically from the back seat, oblivious to the storm she was about to walk into. I opened the door, letting them step into my apartment. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with the faint aroma of lavender from the candles I'd lit. Sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, highlighting the abstract painting I had commissioned last year and the carefully curated sculptures that had once been out of reach for me financially. They froze. Mom's hand hovered over her mouth, her eyes scanning every detail. Dad's jaw tightened, as though trying to recognize the Olivia they thought they knew. Madeline, ever blunt, whispered, "Wow, this place is," and then stopped, unable to find words. I invited them to sit, gesturing toward the sleek dining area. Silence settled for a moment, thick and tense. And then I spoke. "Thank you all for coming," I began, keeping my voice calm, measured. "I want to show you something." I led them to my office, a space I rarely allowed anyone to see. My laptop lay open on the polished desk, spreadsheets and bank statements visible on the screen. "These are the payments I've been making every month for the past 5 years, I said softly. "Mortgage, utilities, insurance. Everything to keep this house safe, to make sure nothing fell behind while you doubted me." Mom gasped. Dad's eyes widened, and Madeline's face drained of color. "I paid it all," I continued, my voice steady, but my heart hammering in my chest. "I did it quietly, because I didn't need praise. I did it because I love this family. But I also need you to understand something. You called me too cheap, overly cautious, and you never believed in me. And yet, I carried your home while you mocked my thrift." They looked around, seeing the apartment in full. The artwork, the furniture, the office, the quiet symbols of a life they hadn't imagined for me. And then it sank in. Dad swallowed hard. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for mine. Madeline's voice cracked. "Olivia, I had no idea." I let the silence linger, letting them absorb it fully. There was disbelief, guilt, and a touch of shame in the room, all mixed with the undeniable realization that I had quietly outgrown their expectations. I didn't shout, I didn't demand apologies. I just smiled, the same calm, composed smile I had worn during every meal, every phone call, every criticism. This time, though, it carried weight. The weight of truth, of action, and of undeniable accomplishment. The room was quiet after the initial shock had settled. Their eyes were still on me, searching for some trace of the girl they had called too cheap, expecting perhaps tears, shame, or awkwardness. Instead, I stood tall, letting the truth I'd carried for years speak for itself. "I've done this for 5 years," I said, my voice calm but firm. I've protected this home, our security, and I've done it without anyone noticing because I didn't need recognition. But now that you know, we need a new understanding. Things can't go back to the way they were. Mom's lips trembled. Olivia, she began, but I gently raised my hand to stop her. This isn't about guilt. It's about growth. If we move forward, it will be on my terms, and you'll have to meet mine as well. I laid out my conditions slowly, deliberately, letting each one sink in. Mom, I want you to finally take that writing class you've postponed for decades. Explore that passion you've always dreamed of. I'll support you in it, but no excuses. No more waiting for approval or perfection. Dad's brow furrowed, but I continued. Dad, you need to listen more than you speak. Stop assuming authority is earned by volume or control. It's earned by action and empathy. You'll learn to guide with respect, not dominance. Turning to Madeline, I smiled softly. And you, it's time to see your own value outside the shadows of our family expectations. Start a project you've always wanted and see it through. I'll support you, but only if you commit fully. There was tension in the room, yes, but also a flicker of understanding. I wasn't punishing them. I was offering them a path to transformation, one I had walked myself, in secret, for years. Then, I drew in a slow breath, letting the weight of my words settle. And for all of you, I expect honesty, accountability, and action. This home, our family, will no longer rely on assumptions, dismissals, or casual mockery. I've carried this burden quietly, and now, I need you to step up. Mom's hand reached for mine again, but this time without hesitation. Dad's posture softened, and Madeline's eyes glistened, the first tears she'd shed in recognition of my dedication. I smiled, feeling a rare mix of relief and power. This wasn't revenge, it was evolution. I had shifted the balance, not through anger, but through unwavering action. And now, they had a choice, rise with me, or remain where they were. For the first time, I felt the full weight of being seen, not just as Olivia the cautious or Olivia the cheap, but as a woman who had quietly built, endured, and now commanded respect. Weeks passed, and slowly, the shifts I had set in motion began to take root. Mom signed up for her writing class, her mornings now filled with laughter and stories she had tucked away for years. Dad started listening, truly listening during our family dinners, his comments thoughtful instead of commanding. Madeline, surprisingly determined, launched a small business project she had once joked she'd never get around to. Each success, small or large, felt like a quiet victory we all shared, born from the moment I finally spoke my truth. I watched them from my apartment one evening, the city lights reflecting in the glass panes. I could hear Mom reading her first short story aloud, her voice carrying over the hum of traffic below. I could see Dad helping Madeline set up her new online store, carefully guiding without overwhelming. And I smiled, holding the silver coin my grandmother had given me so long ago, the one that had reminded me that strength is built through action, not approval. It struck me then how far we had all come. The years of quiet sacrifice, of proving myself in ways they never saw, had transformed me into someone who could lead with love, assert boundaries with grace, and protect what mattered most. I had carried the weight alone, yes, but it had forged a resilience I could now share. I placed the coin back on my desk, its edges worn smooth from constant touch. It had been my talisman, my reminder, and now it felt like a bridge between the girl I once was and the woman I had become. Looking out over the skyline, I whispered to no one in particular. Strength isn't about being seen, it's about standing when no one believes you can. And I did. A gentle smile curved my lips. The past was honored, the present secure, and the future, ours to shape together, was finally bright.